I the a-hole for scolding my struggling sister when she gives us grief about adopting a baby? My sister, 35 female, and her husband, 37 male, have been struggling with infertility since they got married 12 years ago. They've tried absolutely everything, from medical to spiritual, but unfortunately nothing works. Now that she's approaching late 30s, they're starting to look into adoption, but it's also been a slow going since their financial condition isn't exactly stable from multiple rounds of fertility treatments they went through. I can only imagine the struggle, and I sympathize with her, but the stress the situation is bringing her and her husband honestly puts a strain on our relationship. My husband and I, both 30, lost our best friends, Mason and his wife Kate, 2 weeks ago in a horrible car accident. They left behind their son Pete, who isn't even 2 yet. It was so sudden and so heart-wrenching. We're all grieving, which lowers out contact with a lot of people, including my sister and brother-in-law. Our main concern right now is ourselves and Pete, whose custody has come to us because we're both his godparents, actively engaged in Pete's life since his birth, and because Mason and Kate have neither left a will nor have immediate living relatives who can take him in. We've decided to adopt Pete as soon as we can stomach the process. My husband and I never planned on having kids, and even if we did, this is absolutely not the way we want to go about it. The situation is far from ideal, but we're starting the adoption process yesterday for Pete's safety if nothing else. We broke the news to our extended families and friends, letting them know that my husband and I won't be very available for a little longer because of this. I know my sister and brother-in-law will have something to say about this. I'm prepared for a few heated text messages or voicemails. However, I didn't expect them to turn up on our doorstep, crying about how unfair it is that we were given everything they wanted, and how we didn't deserve to be parents because we didn't go through what they had to. I've never seen my husband so angry before. He's usually very mild and gentle, but recent events have stretched our patience to the limits. We kicked them off of our porch, and I told my sister before she left that since our pain inconveniences her so much, I won't have her around me and my family at all anymore. I know she made a fuss about it, and now everyone has something to say to us. We turned off our phones, so we don't know which ones are cursing us and which one aren't. I know some did/are. My husband and I are both in pain and grieving, and we can't trust ourselves to be objective. Did we go too far? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Hey, adopted kid here. I can give you tips on how to be an a-hole if you want to be, because this story inflames me anyway. Your sister and her husband, much like my parents, tried everything else before even considering adoption. That makes their future kid their very last option. They clearly would rather have their own child. This attitude disgusts me personally, but whatever, I guess that's normal for society. Pete is your first option. You sacrificed the lifestyle you wanted to have for him. You chose his life before the future you envisioned, not as a last-ditch effort. Guaranteed you'll be a better parent. You will be the a-hole if you told her this, and honestly, I encourage it. This comment is beautiful and says everything I thought and felt reading this post. I hope you're not the a-hole, and I strongly advise some major distance from this deeply selfish, narcissistic behavior from your sister and brother-in-law. Not the a-hole. I'm sorry, but that's just disgusting behavior from your sister. You got everything you wanted? Your close friends died, and you have to go through an unexpected adoption for their son who is now orphaned. I know she's stressed, but that's just horrible what she said, honestly. At the moment, I was absolutely disgusted too. My husband was too, judging from his face. Like I said, I've never seen him look at anyone like that. It's like a completely different person. I'm afraid I must have looked just like him then too. It's really shocking when you find out your family has a bunch of victims and narcissists. A tragedy happened, but no. This is about them and their baby troubles. I haven't spoken to many of my family members since I was 18 to 24. I'm now in my mid-30s as well. It's not easy, but your life is better when you surround yourself with people who actually give a damn if you're hurting or not. Get angry, feel angry. You should be angry because what they're doing is making it about themselves when it has zero to do with them. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my nieces and nephew live with us? I, 25 female, am married to James, 31 male. We've been married for 2 years and have always planned on having maybe one child. This decision has always depended on us being financially stable. Unfortunately, James's older brother passed away suddenly about a week ago. He had 3 children, 2 girls and a boy. Their ages are 3, 5, and 6. Their mother sadly died from complications arising from a C-section with her youngest. I've just found that we are named in James's brother's will as the ones who wants to take care of the kids. Apparently, my husband okayed this without discussing it with me, thinking that nothing would ever happen to his brother. He already knows he is unbelievably silly for doing this. I've tried to reason with him about it. We live in a miniature 1-bedroom flat. It is on a main road with no garden and is completely impossible to child-proof. We also cannot afford childcare, so one of us would have to stay home with the children to make it work. It would have to be me as my husband earns considerably more than me. If there was no other option, I'd try my hardest to make it work, but my husband's parents have 2 spare bedrooms and live in the countryside right by where the kids lived with their dad. They have experience raising children, but wants us to raise them as it is what their son wanted. They also said this is perhaps the only chance they'll get to just be grandparents, not parents. I'm trying so hard to be sympathetic, but it feels like they're asking me to sacrifice my life for them. I am not a child person naturally. I worry if I could cope with 1 baby, let alone 3 children. And due to COVID lockdowns, I barely know them. My husband and I had an explosive argument last night. I kept pointing out problems like where would the kids sleep, and he just kept saying, "We'll work it out." I don't know how to get through him while being sensitive over everything he has gone through. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. It makes no sense him saying we'll work something out. When? Because it's happening right now and a solution needs to be found right now. Also, don't quit your job. Yeah, guess who will be doing all the working out? UOB. Yes, do not under any circumstances quit your job. Who will be looking after these kids during the day? Does he have any idea how much childcare costs? Unless your brother-in-law left a trust for these kids, say goodbye to all your hopes and dreams for your future. Raising kids is hard, time-consuming, and expensive. At the minimum, these poor kids will need therapy. You have a long and hard road ahead of you raising kids who lost their parents at such a vulnerable age and who were removed from their home to live with strangers. Your husband has not thought this through at all. I'm pretty positive that if Opie removed herself from this situation, the grandparents would take those kids in. Opie's everyone's mule here. No a-holes here. This is a divorce-worthy issue from both sides. He's definitely not the a-hole for wanting to take care of his deceased brother's kids after he made a promise, and that might be relationship breaking if you say no. However, you're also not the a-hole for not wanting to take that on since they have another place to go. If they would go into foster care, you would be a huge a-hole. But if his parents can take them, it's okay to be upset, assuming they want to take them. If you love your husband, tread carefully with this. This is one of the few instances you may not be able to come back from. If her husband loves OP, he should tread carefully. He is absolutely the a-hole for agreeing to this without discussing it with her. This is way too big of an ask for just spring on someone. Not the a-hole. They are asking you to sacrifice your life. Your brother-in-law's will stating he wanted his brother to take the children is unenforceable. Your husband casually telling his brother sure was a serious mistake. As terrible as the circumstances, your husband does not get to tell you to sacrifice your life and your plans for having your own child. He does not get to tell you that you'll be spending the next decade or 2 doing laundry and cooking and homework help. Those children need to go to their grandparents. If you leave your husband over this, that's probably what will happen anyway. Your husband is being completely irresponsible and unrealistic. There is no way you can bring 3 small children into your home. Where are the children now? Did your brother make any financial arrangements like life insurance? Next story. Am I the a-hole for not sticking up for my dad's relationship because his fiancé is the same age as me? My father, 45 male, and I, 27 male, have always had a rocky relationship. As the eldest of 5, have siblings including myself, different mothers, he practically made it my duty to be a good role model for them. I was forced to participate in almost every sport he could find a flyer for, as a good role model stayed active. I had to be a captain or leader of any extracurricular I joined, as good role models lead not follow. I was also not allowed to disobey my father or object to anything he said, as good role models understand that their parents know best. This created some resentment amongst my siblings. I am seen as daddy's golden boy rather than daddy's exhausted, vicariously lived through child. Recently, however, my father has set his sights on someone else. A woman. Let's call her Kit. Kit is nice enough. It's just that she and I are the same age, and I find that creepy. The only person I've voiced my opinion to is my older middle brother, Peter. Peter and I also have a rocky relationship, but we've found common ground on this matter. Peter suggested I tell our father how I felt as soon as I shared my thoughts with him, but I always brushed him off. That was until our family brunch yesterday. My father gleefully announced his plans to make Kit a permanent member of our family. They were engaged. He had proposed the previous night. I guess my brothers and I were not as excited as my father and Kit hoped would be, and they both became visibly upset. My dad demanded to know what the issue was. My eldest sibling instinct kicked in. I was about to try and defuse the situation, but Peter spoke first. The issue? The issue is she's the same age as your eldest child. My father and Kit were stunned. They looked at me before my father spoke again. Well, Opie doesn't have an issue with it, do you, Opie? The last part wasn't a question. He expected me to comply per usual. I didn't say anything though, as I didn't want to offend and upset him any further, but I didn't want to stick up for him either. I felt bad for Kit, as she was visibly embarrassed and quickly left the room. My father chased after her, and my brothers and I took that opportunity to collect our belongings and leave his home. Later that evening, he sent me a message letting me know how disappointed and hurt he was after I didn't stand up for him and Kit. He told me I wasn't acting like the role model he and my mother had raised me to be. And as the most worldly of my siblings, I spent my junior year abroad. I should know better. I didn't respond to his message. I asked anyone else if they'd received anything, and the collective answer was no. I feel horrible. On the one hand, I believe people should be allowed to love who they love. On the other hand, Kit was probably in diapers the same time I was. I love my dad, and he's done a lot for me over the years. But I'm 27 and tired of being his good role model. So am I the a-hole for not sticking up for my dad? Now for the top comments. How much longer are you going to allow your father to manipulate you? That was going to be my question. It seems to me that Opie has allowed himself to be manipulated his entire life. Now that he is an adult, it is on him to set the boundaries. I fear that Opie doesn't even know himself because he's been told what to do for his entire life. I'm surprised he got to his age without having blown up. Generally, I would have thought that once he got to his mid-teens, he would have rebelled against all of this. People thought I would blow up way earlier too. I didn't because I grew up in the evangelical church, so I was always had an intense underlying fear that my parents would just straight up get rid of me like a bag of puppies in the river if I rebelled. I think sometimes people get into that internalized helplessness loop just because 18 years is so long with no other examples around. And if you're afraid of not being fed / getting hurt, etc., it quickly gets Stockholm syndrome. You're the a-hole, but not for what you think. You're the a-hole because you are a peacemaker and conflict avoider. You never stick up for your values or what is right. On top of that, you still allow yourself to be used as pawn in your father's control, and dare I say emotional abuse, of your siblings. It is time to figure out who you are and live your life by your own rules. Stop worrying about upsetting your father. Stick for what is right. Reading No More Mr. Nice Guy really helped me on this front. Last story. Am I the a-hole for ignoring my half-sister for transferring into my school? So I, 18 female, was pretty much abandoned by my own mom when I was a baby. She moved on with a new guy and had 2 kids, Tia 15 female and Ed 13 male. We all have the same last name because mom didn't marry my dad or their dad. When I was 7, they moved away and my mom never called or anything. She just phoned on my birthday if she remembered it and sent birthday cards with a cash and a picture of her and her family. I saw my grandma till last year when she died, because my dad didn't want me to lose a link to my mom. After grandma died, my mom got her house and they moved back, and their kids got admitted into the same school I go to. Okay, well, we're in all different grades, so shouldn't be an issue as I can just avoid them. Well, apparently Tia was really good at basketball, so somehow she gets on the seniors team even though usually it's only grade 12s and 11s. Tia and Ed have reached out to me, but I quickly stopped acknowledging them at all beyond passing to her during a game because I don't want to be their sister. They have their perfect family and I don't want any of it anymore. Like, it sucks so much to see my mom come to our games, drop her off and cheer her on when I never got any of that. Honestly, I dip from games right away if I see her in the stands because I don't want to talk to her. Things kind of came to a head this week because they were taking photos for the yearbook for the basketball team and they were taking them alphabetical order based on last name. I do not want to even show up next to her in the yearbook, so when they lined us up, I told the PE teacher I was getting my surname changed to my dad's last name and got my place switched. Tia got really upset with me. And after the photos, tried arguing with me and I just got mad and told her to go complain to her mom. And she just called me an a-hole for never wanting to be her sister. The friends are split, with some saying I should give her a chance at least to avoid making things awkward at school, and my dad tells me I should reach out to my mom. But my cousins are all on my side and told me I did the right thing. And so school is kinda tense so far today because of it. I don't really know, so I'm coming here to find out if I'm the a-hole. Oh, and since I always see people say get therapy on here, I see a psychologist for my issues. Not the a-hole. You've been through a lot with your mother abandoning you, so it's normal not to want her children in your life. At 18 years old, you were living your teenage years, and it is not up to you to have to mend fences. Opie, you're not the a-hole, but you're also taking out your mom issues on your bio siblings, and that's not okay. You should treat them with the kindness and respect you'd treat any of your other fellow students at the school. I suggest you take them both aside at lunch and tell them that you have nothing against them, but you don't feel like a sibling to them and you're not interested in a sibling relationship. You expect them to respect your position, and on your side, there are no hard feelings. Not the a-hole. If Grandma didn't die, Mom wouldn't have gotten the house. The kids wouldn't have transferred to your school and none of you would have been in contact with each other like it had been your entire life. If she wanted to be your friend and sister, why didn't she try for a relationship before all of this? Yeah, it's not like I don't have Instagram or Snap or even freaking Xbox Live. I can't even go back to my grandma's house because they all live there now. That sucks so much. I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, I got everything that was left to me in her will. But it sucks not knowing what happened to my room there and not being able to remember my grandma where she lived and all. Am I the a-hole for refusing to help my sister out financially even though I can afford to? I, 34, female, am the eldest of 9 siblings. My sister, Sarah, 24, and I aren't close. I love all of my siblings, and I'm close with all of them, except for her. Growing up, she wouldn't introduce me to her friends and would refuse to acknowledge me at family gatherings over the years. In short, she was distant with me but not my other siblings. After I moved out of my parents' house, Sarah and I grew further apart and didn't see each other except at family functions. She would ignore my attempts at reaching out and or including her in anything that my other siblings and I did together. She didn't come to my wedding. I didn't even know that I'd gotten divorced until 2 years later. She refused to accept my request to add her to socials and never responded to any calls or texts. It hurt, but I didn't want to push, thinking that she might eventually come around so long as I kept the door open. A year ago, she finally accepted my social media request and sent me a DM. It started out as just a, "Hey sister, how are you?" After some awkward small talk, I learned that she's not doing well financially due to her boyfriend losing his job. She asked me if I could lend her some money as she was short for groceries. I agreed and told her that she didn't have to pay me back. I sent what she asked for and a bit extra. She thanked me and asked if we could visit for a proper catch-up. I agreed, and we set it up. The visit came and went, and she didn't show up or answer my call/texts. I assumed that something came up and texted that she let me know when we could reschedule. 2 days later, she DM'd saying her cell phone had been cut off for non-payment. She asked for help to get it reconnected and said she'd pay me back when she could. I agreed and sent it to her. A few days later, and she asked for more money. I sent her the money again, but told her that I can't send anything else until she pays me back because I didn't have any more that I could spare. I felt like I've been used. Then one day she asked for a cab fare. I said that I'd pick her up and drive her myself. She got angry and accused me of not trusting her. She blasted me on a family group chat saying that I was refusing to help her and that I was selfish. Sarah recently posted something about how she loves her family and how much they mean to her. She tagged all of my siblings except for me. 5 minutes later, she sent me a text asking me for money for diapers, and I lost it. I asked her why she only ever contacts me when she wants money, and that I was feeling used. She denied it and said she was angry that I could accuse her of such a thing. I sent her screenshots to prove it. She said, just forget it then. I tried to apologize for being rude, and she ignored me. A few days ago, she asked for help paying for rent and offered to repay the loan as soon as she could. I could help, but I don't want to. I feel like I'm being used. It hurts that she only ever contacts me when she wants money. So, am I the a-hole? Why do you feel bad for accurately calling her out for using you? Like, totally not the a-hole. Please stop funding her life. You're so desperate for a relationship with her that you're allowing her to manipulate you into giving money. Don't fall for that crap. I feel bad because I don't want my nieces to go without. My family and I try to look out for one another without getting into each other's personal lives or finances without invitation. There was a bit of parentification going on when I was a kid too, so I kind of see her as a daughter of sorts. Still not your issue. She is an adult and is responsible for her decisions and kids. She is using you. Try reading what you just wrote, but pretend a friend wrote it. Often we are too close to a situation to see the truth. Don't give her any more money. Best of luck to you. I am huge into family, but not to the point of being used. You're the oldest. Stop being passive and get a straight answer by asking straight questions. Start asking the other siblings what her problem is. Why is she leaving you out and excluding you? Make this a family issue since Sarah keeps reiterating that she is into the family. Info, I feel like we're missing something big here. Do you know why Sarah's always been so distant with you? I think it's because she and I are so far apart in age. I don't really know, to be honest. Not the a-hole, but refusing her could put you in a bad situation with the family. Have you talked to your family about this? Maybe point out that she blatantly left you out of her post about family and show them your receipts of her only contacting you for money. I've talked with a sister and brother that she's closest to about it. They said they talked to her, but that I should just let it go and stop trying so hard to win her affection. They said that I need to just stop sending her money. Apparently, she used to hit them up all the time until they cut her off financially, and said that she's a grown woman who can and should take care of herself. There's your answer. Cut her off. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for pressing charges on my mom when my family told me not to? I, 18 female, and my boyfriend, 22 male, have been living in our first apartment together for a while now, completely independent from our parents. I have never had a good relationship with my mom, 37 female. I had been taken away from her for severe neglect as a young child and was raised by my great-grandparents, 84 male plus 80 female. She wasn't a part of my life for 13 years. When my grandparents eventually passed from old age, she regained custody and moved me across the province I live in. Anyway, when we had settled in our new place, because I have better credit than my boyfriend, we were looking into getting our Wi-Fi under my name. But when I called the best provider in our little rural area, they explained to me that I owe them over $800, which couldn't make any sense as I've never had an account with them in the first place. They gave me the address and the year that it had first been owned, and it was one of the first places I had lived with my mom. I had been 15. We were on civil terms, and I let her know that because I just had a new job and have moved out. Note that I haven't lived with her since I was 15. I've mainly lived with friends as she's pretty crazy, that I won't give her money for my phone bill that I didn't owe her, but was going to anyway until she paid a balance owing under my name. Because not only was my credit now horrible, but we couldn't get Wi-Fi, and that's something I needed for school/work. She blocked me, cut my phone off, and went to my in-laws to try and break up my relationship with my boyfriend. The only way the money owed can be waived is if I press charges for fraud, but when I asked for advice, it was met with, "How can you do that to your mom?" She wouldn't be able to get divorced then. She's on her fourth husband and she had cheated on him. How is that my problem? Anyway, am I the a-hole? Should I do it? You don't press charges. The province does. The fraud can be shown with your birth certificate. You're not old enough to sign a contract when this account was opened, so provider was negligent. You probably have to file a report with the police, but nothing much will happen to your mother. P.S. Get a credit report because she didn't just do this once. This is good advice. She stole money from you and tried to sabotage your relationship with your partner. This is astonishing and abnormal. You don't owe her anything. It seems like you can't demand your overly strenuous relationship either way, so you have nothing to lose. It may seem bad from an external perspective to people who don't know the situation well, but their opinion doesn't matter. Only yours. You need to cover this debt, fix your credit, and get a Wi-Fi, which is crucial for your studies and work. The real question is, how can your mother do that to you? She was an egg donor who has abandoned her responsibility to you and has literally committed a crime by stealing your identity and leaving you with a bad debt that's harming your ability to live your life successfully. Will these relatives who don't want you to press charges pay the bill? If not, then ignore them for suggesting you just eat your mother's crime. If the mom did it here, how many more lines of credit/accounts did she open in Opie's name? Continue with the charges. She does not have your best interest in mind. Also, the company entered into a contract with a minor, which is illegal. Minors cannot be in a contract in the US. Apparently, your mom represented herself with your name, but the company did not do due diligence to avoid providing service to a minor. Access a free credit report every year starting now. Identify if other illegal charges are there. Best to you. Opie's in Canada, I believe, based on province, so the Crown presses charges, not an individual. Also, it is illegal here too, just so you know. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not involving myself in my ex-husband's child's life? I'm 25 female, ex-husband 29 male, and I divorced a year ago after I found out that he had an affair son, Carl, 1 male. By that time, I already had Adam, 3 male, and Ben, 1 male. Since my husband had an affair, he lost any right to alimony or child support from my part due to prenup stipulations. He also lost his job at my dad's and a car. When he came back begging me for an opportunity, he disclosed that Carl's mom passed away during childbirth, and we were the only family he had. I was hurt for his betrayal, but yet I still felt love for this man, and didn't want to hurt a motherless child, so I told him that I would revoke his mandatory child support payments, because I don't really need them thanks to my dad, so he could focus on doing what was best for Carl and that anything he did, monetary, for our kids was welcome but not necessary. The problem was that, a few months after the divorce, he grew comfortable enough to ask me about how to take care of a child, to the point where he would try to leave me with Carl while I explained. After I realized what was he doing and when I confronted him, he admitted that he was trying to create a bond between us so his child could have a mom too. I immediately put Carl in his arms and said that while I was sorry for the loss of his mother, I'm not willing to play mommy of his affair kid and to never bring the subject again. He told me how unfair I was being, because now that he's young, it's the perfect time to make an introduction, and how awful it will be for Carl to see his brothers grow up with me. I felt pressured, so I took our kids and told him to contact me again through a lawyer for any future discussion. When I got home, I told my family what happened, and while almost everyone agreed with me, my mom said that I was a horrible human being because that child had no mother, and that she raised me better than this. My dad tried to defend me as well as my sisters, but my mom said that what happened between my ex and I didn't have anything to do with an innocent child, and she hopes I do the right thing, and I love the child. She's also pressuring me to buy things for the kid and make space in my home, such as giving him a bedroom and all, because she won't allow that I take my kids home and he's left there alone. But I said that I don't want to involve myself with him, and now she's not talking to me unless I agree. Now for the top comments. Yikes. Not stay home. Girl, I'm throwing you a parade for your fantastic boundaries and compassion. The dude broke your trust and your heart, and then took advantage of your gracious decline of child support. His decision to have an affair behind your back and then insist you be responsible to mother the child is abhorrent. Your mom sounds like she is grieving that he is no longer her son-in-law and wants everything to feel like a family again. She probably figures since the other woman has passed away, all harm is bygone, and now everything can go back to the way it was. That's absolutely not the case. It's absolutely on your ex-husband to parent the child, which probably has him beside himself with the responsibility he resents. The child's loss of a mother is tragic, but no reasonable person could believe that your presence could right that wrong. His mother has passed away, no one can replace her. His dad cheated on you and has flat out admitted to manipulating you multiple times to make his life more convenient. The baby deserves better 100%. but that doesn't obligate you to put up with worse. Maybe your mom should adopt him. That child is nothing more to you than every other motherless child in the land. Suggest, sincerely, that your ex get busy and find a loving and gentle new wife who wants to be a mother to his child. There are lots of women out there who would be interested. My infertile friend actually married a widower with 3 kids and admitted it was as much to be a mom as to be a wife. Several years in, they are very happy. I disagree the child is nothing to her. It's her children's sibling. This is a stickier situation than it could be because their half-brother is going to feel left out. Is that her problem to fix? No. She's not a-hole for boundaries. But I can't help but feel for a kid that's gonna see his brothers go spend time with mom when he doesn't have one. Dad could use that time to make his son feel special, or he could be an A. That's not Opie's responsibility at all. But my heart hurts for that kid, and I get her mom's point. Hopefully as they get older, she might allow sleepovers if the older two ask for him to come over. But she wouldn't have to. It would be noble of her to do it on her own volition, but Dad is being sneaky and a jerk about things. I see your point. Sort of, but not really. Why should a woman and her kids be forced to even know or ever meet the children the man sires on mistresses, one-night stands, or affairs? Sure, they are siblings in the sense of the man's DNA. Why is that even important? Why can't they be thought of as a sperm donor's other offspring? Why all the sibling stuff? NTA, NTA, NTA. I'm horrified at your mom's suggestions. It's an affair child, for crying out loud. How would your mom feel if your dad suddenly came home with an affair child? Not very good, I'd suppose. It would ruin the family, I presume. Now, your kids are still young, but if they were any older and they understood this, they probably won't be very welcoming of this kid too. You are not a saint, and you do not owe that child and your ex anything. No, no, no. Even if the child did nothing wrong, why do you have to live with the proof of your ex's infidelity? It would take a toll on you and affect your emotions. How would your mom feel if your dad suddenly came home with an affair child? She would probably take him in. My mom herself is an affair kid. She says that not having someone loving you or accepting you is horrible, and that I'm in a position to help because the baby's young, motherless, I have the time and money, so I have to do what's best. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my nephew it's not his birthday? My daughter's 7th birthday was yesterday. We went by my mom/her grandma yesterday for dinner, cake, and gifts. My brother and my nephews were there too, and daughter gets along well with her cousins. My mom has this birthday crown that she has the kids wear when it's their birthday. One of my nephews, 5, asked my daughter if he could wear the crown for a little bit. She agreed. Then when we were doing cake, he asked her to help her blow out candles. She said sure. I kinda looked at my brother, hoping he'd say something to his son, but he didn't. Then when we were giving my daughter her gifts, my nephew, who still had a crown on, asked my daughter if he could help her open her presents. I stepped in and said, "No, it's her birthday, not yours. Let her open her gifts by herself." My nephew seemed kinda pouty. Thing about my daughter is she's too nice sometimes, and has a hard time if she thinks saying no will hurt feelings. This seemed like one of those times. Later, my brother said nephew was just having fun. It wasn't that big of a deal. The brother and his wife let him open their gifts on their birthdays, that he knows they're not his gifts to keep. I said, yeah, but that's you, an adult. She's a kid and should get to celebrate her own birthday without sharing it. My brother said I'm teaching my daughter to be mean. Am I the a-hole? He is teaching his son that he always has to get his way and be the center of attention. 5 is plenty old enough to realize that other people matter, and not every day is about them. His kid is being raised to be entitled. Wait till he tries that at a school friend's birthday party. This happened at a party when my daughter was in kindergarten. One of the attendees had an absolute screaming meltdown because she was not allowed to blow out a birthday child's candles, nor open the presents. Turned out to be the child my daughter had talked about all year, who was always throwing tantrums. We did not invite her to my daughter's party that following summer. Not a a-hole. You're teaching your daughter it's okay to say no and have boundaries. A nephew needs to learn how to hear no and respect boundaries. This is important. Opie, I don't want to put the fear of God into you over an interaction between 2 cute little kids, but do not let your brother teach your daughter that saying no is being mean. Jesus freaking Christ. This is so important. Not a a-hole. Teach your daughter that saying no is her right and doing so is not mean, no matter how bratty her cousin is. Also, give the girl back the birthday crown for crying out loud. Who does that?